done our work breakdown structure, we will have an overview of the different items in the different works packages. And the next step would be to find some prices for these different items. And for that we use a program called Sigma, which you have already installed in your computer. The installed Sigma version looks like this, probably. It has some Danish text up here, and we can change that by going into File and into this word called Instellinger, which is really Options. And then we have a dialog box coming up here, and we need to go into this one called Sprog or Spro in Danish, which means language. And if we change this top one here to English and click OK at the bottom here, and yes, then Sigma will restart again so that you can get the English version. As you can see here now, we have the English version up here, and this is what we will use to establish our libraries. Now, the first thing you do when you establish the library actually is to open the master library, which you've been given. And the master library is here. If I click on here, I've got it under My Libraries. You probably will just load it up by going into File and Open, and then opening the master library where you've saved it. But once it's open, then we can save it to this particular item here, this My Libraries section. I've already got it here, but I just want to show you what the procedure for saving it if you load it up from an external, for example, source like a USB or something similar. Your master library looks a bit like, well, it looks like this. If we click on this side here, we have the different, a tree, as it were, a structural tree showing the different parts of the library. In the substructures, you've got foundations and terrain slabs and substructure. And under primary building components, you have outer walls, inner walls, which are primary building components. Under completions, you have outer walls and inner walls. Now, this master library is a standard library for the whole of, in this case, Denmark. And the prices in here are general prices. But before we go any further, let's save this library to our ribbon. And the way to do that is to go into File, Save As, and once you get the Save As dialog box, you go under Libraries, which is in Danish is called Biblioteker. And under Libraries you have Documents. You click Documents there, and you will find, under Documents, you will find Sigma Enterprise. Click on there, and there is a section called Libraries, and as you can see, you can save it. Gem means save, so if you click here, it'll save it in this area here, and this is already saved. So once you save yours, you'll reboot or restart Sigma, and the master library will appear on your ribbon here under My Libraries, under the main section Libraries. So that's how you get the main library into your Sigma. What we can see from our work breakdown structure, we have specifically found out the structure of each works package, and we must now find these prices in our main library, our master library, and bring them over to a project library. So how do we establish the project library? To establish the project library, we go back into our Sigma. We have our main library, our master library open, and these are gross prices without margin. So we go into File and New, and we establish a new library and click Create. We give it a name, for example, Workshop Library. And click OK to that. And then you can see the screen is now split, and you have a section here with the master library and you have a section here with the project library, which you're going to create specifically for that work breakdown structure you did. And now you can start by clicking on here and writing the different items that you want to get a price on. For example, it could be in-cap pile caps, and it could be, for example, columns. It could be things like terrain slab and other things like, for example, floor slabs, first to third floor, for example. So this way you create some main areas, and then you go into here, into your master library, and you try and find the items you're looking for. For example, if I'm looking for terrain slabs, I will look under terrain slab here, and perhaps we have a terrain slab here. It's called, if I click on here, you can see it here. It says terrain slabs 150mm lacquer, which is a expanded clay granulate, and 350mm of insulation, and then some concrete. So if you like that item, it looks like the one in your project, you bring it up and you drop it there, for example, on the slab. And here you now have a item which you borrowed from the library, and now you can change it here if you wish. Well, one of the first things I'd do is to change this quantity here to 1, because this is a main library and this is a translation of a Danish library. So we're looking for 1 square meter, so we put in 1 square meter, and we can see the cost of 1 square meter is this unit cost of 787 kroner. It's a green color. That means that in order to change it, if I wanted to change this, I'd have to expand the actual item here. By clicking here, I can expand and contract it like this, and then I can go in and I can change different things. For example, polystyrene in the terrain slab is a material. The category is material. The measurement is square meters. The quantity is 1, and the unit cost is 139.34 kroner. If you want to change this, you can change it here. You can put in a different price, for example, 200 kroner per square meter. And the time for actually doing this work, this is the actual concreting of the work. It's a category you have to keep in Danish. This word "løn" is very important. You have to keep it in Danish because the program language of this Sigma is Danish, so we cannot change this. And the measurement is it says here timer. In Danish this word means hours, so we have to keep this too. So it takes for 1 square meter 0.133 hours to do 1 square meter. If you want to change this, if you want to say that, for example, no, I don't think it's going to be 0.1, but it's going to be 0.25 hours per square meter, then you can change it here. And then your standard library item is changed to a unique library item. So this is the idea behind making a library, a project library. You take a standard library and you convert things to fit your project, because a standard is something that's valid for the whole country. The unique library is valid for the place where you're building your building. I'm going to open a library that I've already done. This is just an example how you could start on it, but I've already done one, so I'm just going to not save this and open one which is already finished. The library I've already done is the library for the concrete works, or the superstructure, and this is what it looks like. Here it is. I've opened it up, and found a price for pile caps and a price for strip foundations and terrain slab and so on and so forth, floor slabs, etc. So you can see, if I look at the columns, I have different columns because the columns in my ground floor are a little bigger than the columns in the on the first, second and third floors. So, and I've also got a price for the steel construction in the top of my building. So I've already made a library for the superstructure or the concrete works, which is based on some of the items I took from this master library, and some of the items here I have in my project library I've changed with regard to time and with regard to price and so on and so forth. As I mentioned in a previous video, each student should take one branch of the WBS and detail it and do his own library for that particular branch. Afterwards, the libraries can be pulled in together. I'm going to close this master library and show you another library I did for the masonry works of the project. Here's the masonry works, and here's a drawing for the masonry works. As you can see, it comprises brickwork. It also has some hosted elements in it, which is a different contract. It's the carpentry contract, but the masonry works here is the brickwork and the blockwork or the concrete elements and maybe the staircases. So the library for that looks like this. And here you can see the library for the masonry works. It consists of brickwork, and I've pulled in a price here from the main library, and I've changed the quantity to 1, as you can see here, and the same for the blockwork here, and then we have the staircase here too. And you can see the prices here for that library. Now the idea behind this is that each, as I said before, each student does his branch of the WBS, creates its own library, and then the libraries can be put together to a common library. And the way to do that is to go into File, File, New, Library, and Create, and give it a name, for example, Common Library. And you can see the common libraries here. And the way to actually make these libraries become a common library is to just pull in all the individual libraries for each branch of the WBS. And I have the different branches done by different students. So for example, this superstructure can be dragged and dropped in there, and you can see it's down there now. And the masonry works can also be dragged and dropped in there, and you can see it there. So it's very easy to make a common library, simply dragging and dropping all the libraries which are open in Sigma, and then creating a new library, calling it the common library, and then dragging and dropping them in there. So that's how you create libraries in Sigma. And library is always green, as you can see here. You see the ribbon, it's a SLI file, which is a Sigma library file, and it has a green ribbon. You can change that color, of course, if you wanted to.